It may sound crazy to play Lunalights in your Dracotail deck, but Lunalights with the power of the Dracotails can be a real powerhouse. Let's talk about it. Starting off with the Dracotail engine, I have 3 copies of Phimena. At first glance, Phimena seems quite neg. You have to pitch her and then fusion summon. She can't even be used as the materials. Thus, in order to make your Artelion, which is the main Dracotail fusion monster, we need to use another Dracotail from our hand. At least when we go second and we want to use the Phimena as a hand trap. It is actually very strong to use the Phimena on turn 0 when you go second. Being able to fuse away with your other Dracotail names and make a fusion monster that acts as a disruption, and then use these graveyard effects to set Dracotail spell and traps to your field, or pairing it with some other engine that also gets value in the graveyard. Just allows you to utilize all of your once per turn effects even when you go second. If you look at the top decks that have been running around in the Yu-Gi-Oh metagame the past few years, it's always been a trend that you really want to go first, because then you can use your cards first. Since everything has a once per turn effect, you can utilize all of those cards before your opponent. Obviously putting up large fields with negates is part of it, but also being able to just play before your opponent and utilize these once per turn mechanics is very powerful. Even in old Yu-Gi-Oh like Edison formats, being able to go first and set your traps and summon your monsters before your opponent is usually always better than when you're going second. Similarly, even if you go neg 1 on this interaction, being able to set up your field for the next turn, accessing your powerful Dracotail spells, just allows you to get all that advantage back. Taking a temporary -1 in modern Yu-Gi-Oh is not really an issue, because you can just get it all back, since every card prints new cards. So the fact that Phimena is a hand trap that allows you to play turn 0, or chain this card to perform a quick polymerization effect, is one of the key reasons to play this card in your deck. And then I have 1 copy of Lucius. Since I'm playing a lot of engines in this deck, particularly a bunch of normal summons, I don't want too many. And in the typical Dracotail deck, you need to open Dracotail monsters along with your way to fusion summon. However, in this deck it's a bit different, therefore I'm able to cut down some of the worst Dracotail names. And Lucius is still a 4-off, thanks to the Rhoda spell, which can grab it directly from our deck to our hand. Then I have 3 copies of Mululu. At first glance, Mululu is a worse normal summon than Lucius, because it doesn't do anything on its own. However, Mululu is so much better to fuse away with because it's a dark monster. And in this deck, the first fusion you make is usually not a Dracotail. It's usually a Wind or a Mud Dragon of the Swamp to tie your 2 engines together, depending on if you go second or first. Also, when you fuse away with the Mululu, it is just so much better than fusing away with the Lucius, because this also negates a card seeing as it's a dragon, as the Dragon Dracotails have additional effects when you fuse them away. And for the last Dracotail monster in the main deck, I have 1 copy of Urgula. Similar to Mululu, Urgula is also a dragon, meaning that when you fuse this card away, it has a bonus effect, apart from just setting a Dracotail spell or trap. Additionally, you can use Urgula to bring back either of your spellcasters from the graveyard, usually being the Phimena. And I'm not playing Pan, because the grind game is not from the Dracotail cards, it is from the combination of Dracotail and Lunalight. For the Dracotail spells, I have 3 copies of Rahu, which is basically their branded fusion. Luckily, the lock is only for the rest of your turn, so you can start with your Lunalight plays, make some exceeds and get your engine going, and then you can use the Rahu at the end of your combo. These spells are also particularly good when you go second as board breakers. Then I have 3 copies of Ketu. When you go second, these cards are pretty interchangeable. The Ketu does not lock you, but as a downside when you go first, this card is just Rhoda, which is not bad at all since it's still a 1-card combo. Also, the Ketu can just add you any of your Dracotails depending on which one you need for the situation. And the last Dracotail card in the main deck is 1 copy of Flame. I'm not playing the Dracotails to act as a grind engine. Thus I'm not playing the second trap Horn, as I don't need a way to recycle these. It is completely fine to just do your turn 1 combo, make a window and set a Flame. You can then use the Flame to negate your opponent's spell, which either advances their game state or threatens your board. You draw a card and then you just win on the crackback. So that's it for the Dracotails. For the Lunalights, I have 3 copies of Gold Leo. This is your actual main starter of the deck. With a lot of people cutting Droll and Lockbird from the main deck, the Lunalight cards become way better. We'll get to why in just a second. 1 copy of Kaleidoshik, 1 Yellow Marten, 1 Tiger, one Silverhound, and one Black Sheep. So what makes playing all of these Lunalights so great? Well, the Black Sheep can grab you polymerization from your deck to your hand. You can then use Poly to fuse away any of your Dracotail names. Particularly if you were to fuse away the Mululu, you can make a Mud Dragon. Or you can just make an Artelion, which is just an additional way to get your engine going. Similar to the pure Dracotail deck, you want to play polymerization so you can fuse away with your Dracotail names, because otherwise it's just dead in your hand. So by playing the Lunalights, we have way more access to polymerization than the typical Dracotail deck, meaning when we go second, we can make a Guardian Chimera at ease, or an Artelion and just blow away our opponent's field. Additionally, we can use the Lunalight cards to push through what our opponent has and actually go for game. The Dracotail deck can push quite a bit, but usually it's capped at 7800 points of damage, because that's all you can do with Lucius and 2 fusion summons. But with this deck you have a whole nother engine which can actually help you push through a board and get those last pieces of the puzzle and actually go for game. Additionally, when we fusion away with the Kaleidoshick, when it goes to graveyard by card effect, can recycle our polymerization, so we can make even more fusion summons in a turn. The Silverhound has a spell and trap negate, which makes our turn 1 board that much more threatening, and can negate important cards like the Vanquish Soul Trap, or Yummy Surprise, which could be a way to stop your OTK. The Tiger allows you to push for a lot of damage by just summoning back your Lunalights, making various Exceed plays, bouncing back with Yellow Marten, making another Exceed play. By just throwing your cards at your opponent, you can eventually overwhelm them and go for game. That's it for the Lunalight monsters. And then to search them out, I have 3 copies of Fire from Edge and Tenki. With Rise Steel not being as prevalent in the metagame, you can afford to play 3 copies of these kind of cards, which are really bad into Detonator, Androll and Lockbird, but if those cards are not in people's decks, then it doesn't matter. Tenki is just a free reinforcement of the army for any of your Lunalights, which can be either polymerization, or starters, or extenders, like we just talked about. 2 copies of Perfume. This deck is less focused on the Lunalight aspect, therefore I am playing fewer Lunalight cards, only 1 Tiger and 1 of each of the other names, and only 2 copies of Perfume because you really just want to add this off of the fusion monster. As you play less Lunalights, the chance that you open a Perfume and have it be dead is slightly higher, so I don't want to play too many copies of this. But it's still a non-once per turn reinforcement of the army and Monster Reborn in 1 card, so I don't mind drawing this card. 1 copy of Masquerade. This card is highly searchable and creates quite a lot of redundancy should you draw it. You can send down other cards than Silverhound to the graveyard, which is the main target, like a Schick to recycle Poly, a Black Sheep to recycle a Lunalight name, but the main target is really the Silverhound. And once that's used up, this card has fulfilled its use. You can add back Poly, but usually you use the Kaleidoshick to do so, because I'm not playing Liger Dancer, at least for the time being. 1 copy of Polymerization. As we just talked about, this is a key part in the Dracotail deck, and is the bridge of our Lunalight and Dracotail engine. That's it for the Lunalight spells. For a supplementary engine, I have the Shaddolls in 1 Beast, 1 Skamata, and 1 Hedgehog. These cards are not searchable. However, you do draw with your combo, so there's a chance you can draw into these, with the Gar as the Timeless. One main selling point of the Shaddolls in this deck, as opposed to the typical Dracotail deck, is that your 5 mana going second is way more consistent. All of your Lunalights, barring Tiger, is dark. Along with the Mululu, you have plenty of dark targets to go along with your 5 mana and the Shaddolls. And when you go first, you can go for any of these with Polymerization to get into Beast, draw a card, and recycle it with Artelion. And even if you don't, your board is still pretty formidable. For the non-engine, I have 3 copies of Mulcharmi Fuvalos for my Soul Hand Trap, apart from 5 mana of course, 3 copies of Triple Tactics Thrust, 1 Talent, and 1 Blackout. The engines are quite big in this deck, as the goal when you go second is to try to break apart the board, seeing as Ketu and Rahu are effectively board breakers as well. You stand quite a good chance at actually going second and breaking apart the board, depending on what deck you're playing against of course. Do keep in mind that this is very metagame dependent. There is an argument to play less Shaddolls or more Shaddolls should you want to lean into 5 mana more so. You could also tweak the Lunalight ratios a bit if you need more non-engine to go into something like Yummy. But when you play against the more fair decks like the Mirror Match or Vanquish Soul Canine, You could argue that as long as you have engine and get to play, you can usually push through the board at least somewhat. And even if you don't go for game, you can put up a pretty good field, as well as clear away the resources. And thanks to the Dracotails, you can put up some interruptions in your main combo as well, when you're just breaking apart the board naturally, thus giving you quite a good suite of interruptions for turn 3. But that is it for the main deck. It's 41 cards. For the extra deck, I have one copy of Cross Sheep. If you don't make this card turn 1, there's a pretty cool line you can go for turn 3. If you have Arphalion or a Gulamel in your graveyard, and any 2 monsters on your field, you can link them both off into a Cross Sheep. 2 monsters went to graveyard at the same time, so you can bring back either of your fusions in the zone under Cross Sheep. Thus Cross Sheep then triggers and brings back a level 4 lower from the graveyard. And with this you can either push for game or just make some various link plays. These fusions are quite big when they return. And this play is very free, it just costs you 2 bodies. And that's pretty good bang for your buck. Then I have one SP Little Knight, one Access Code Talker. Despite only playing Link 2s, and only 2 of them, you do have 2 different attributes. So even making a 4300 attacker that pops 2 cards is not bad at all. For the Exceeds, I have one Baguska, one Emerald, one Dugaris, and one Tiger King. Dugaris helps you dig for particular engine cards, or non-engine, and can help you trigger some discard effects in a pinch. And that's it for the Exceeds. For the Fusions, I have one copy of Muddragon of the Swamp. If you have Poly, this is a way to fusion away your Lunalights along with your Mululu. This mainly comes up when you open the Mululu and you open the Lunalights, and you can't normal summon the Mululu. Sometimes you can open too many normal summons, and this is just a way to get it out of your hand, and still access your Dracotail engine, while maintaining a level 4 for your rank 4 place. One El Shaddoll Winda. As I talked about before, this is one of the main selling points of this deck. Having more darks means your 5 mana into Winda plays are that much more consistent. And thanks to Dugaris being a pot of greed, you have way more ways to see the Winda as well, in that you can deep draw into your Shaddolls. One Lunalight Perfume Dancer. This is the only Lunalight fusion I play. You could play Liger Dancer as well, but since this deck does not really play Protoss, you would have to go for Emerald to recycle the fusion if you only play 3 of them. So in order to make the Liger Dancer work, you would need to play 4 fusions, including the Perfume Dancer, so that would be 3 more. While you could do that, you would be cutting something like Emerald, the Access Code Talker and Dugaris as well, and likely one of the other utility fusions. So you could do that to play Liger Dancer, but the issue with Liger Dancer is, once you get to Liger Dancer, you've already won the game. There are some niche situations where you can actually make Liger Dancer into something like a Mulcharmy, stymie your opponent and they can't deal with a tower, so you get your turn. But that's pretty few and far between. There are ways to make something like Baguska, SP and a fusion into a Fuvalos as well, but it's something to think about. One Gulamel, one Secretarian Dragon, 2 copies of Arphalion, and one Guardian Chimera. This card is absolutely insane. You can make this with Poly, and you can chain block it with all of your effects. It is just one more threat your opponent has to deal with. And with the Dracotails floating, you get additional threats. And thanks to Lunalight, you can make this card nearly every single game, since you play so many ways into polymerization. That's it for the extra deck. For the side deck, I have 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. In these type of combo decks, hand traps that just says your opponent cannot play are very good, which is why this card is not in my main deck, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. This card is pretty much just for when you go first, and you want to stop their Mulcharmies. Since I want to take out Fuvalos when I go second, I want something to put into my deck in its place. And Ash is also pretty good against Dracotail when you go second. So the Ash is better than something like a turn skip for when you go first, because you can also put it in when you go second. 3 copies of Mulcharmy Meowls. Yeah, Mulcharmies are still very strong. Being able to go second and have multiple copies of Maxi equivalents is very good. Therefore I also play 3 copies of Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. Phantasme is just more ways to dig for your 5 mana, along with your Shaddoll plays. You can actually make the Winda when you go second. You can also just draw into 5 mana and make a Arphalion on the opponent's turn. Just keep in mind that you can't use the Phantasme on field for the Arphalion. 1 Call by the Grave. Similar to Ash, this is a card I put in when I go first, but I think it's slightly more versatile when I'm going first, and you can also use this on the opposing 5 manas to let your entire Lunalight combo resolve without any Interruption, and you can stop other hand traps as well. 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, and since I'm main decking Thrust, I have 1 copy of Mutually Offered Destruction, and 1 Different Dimension Ground. This card is for Vanquish Soul K9, and this card is for Yomi and Dragontail, as well as any other rogue deck that randomly needs the graveyard, which are most decks. Keep in mind you also have the Blackout Laughs, which is also very good into pretty much every single matchup, which is why it's in the main deck. And that is it for the deck profile. If you guys want a combo video, be sure to let me know in the comments. But until then, take care and have a good rest of your day. If you enjoy my content, make sure to also subscribe to my second channel, linked in the description box down below. There I'll be posting more personalized and exclusive content.